And welcome to Wild Flashes, my weekly news bit where I go over any of the stories that have come up in the last 7 days of interest to my channel. And with the first one, the Netherlight Crucible, there's been a few extra confirmations. Now, there's been so much discussed about this on the forums. Like Law, one of the community managers, has answered quite a lot of questions about it, almost to the point where I could do a video on it on its own, but I've already done a video on how the Netherlight Crucible works, and also a bit of a vlog about it as well, so I don't think people really want me to do another one. But one thing that is worth confirming on it is that I sort of put in text, I didn't say on my vlog of it because I wasn't really sure, I sort of suspected what would happen. The idea with the Netherlight Crucible and the relics, I thought, well, let's say you give it to someone for whom it might be an upgrade, they take it to the Netherlight Crucible, slot it into the extra slot that allows you to see what traits it gets on it without committing to putting it into your weapon. And I thought to myself, well, let's say they're no good, then do you have the option of giving it to someone else if it's within the 2 hours when you're allowed to trade loot that everyone was eligible for? The answer has come back no. As soon as you slot it into the Netherlight Crucible, even if it's into that fourth slot where you're just having a little peek at it, it becomes bound to you. So they're completely cock blocking us on that one. So I'm sure people will have views on that either way, but that is the way of it. Another thing is a note has gone out about some bans that have gone on for selling boosts for real world money. So this isn't about the account sharing as such. Obviously, account sharing and selling boosts for money, like real life money, has been a feature for the last couple of weeks when I've been discussing it as well. And I did do a video a little bit about this one as well this week, or a couple of videos. It's sort of run on and on and on, hasn't it? It is to be noted, though, that some bans were put on erroneously and have since been rescinded, hopefully all of them. But the other thing that people have asked in those videos, and Blizzard were very, very clear about this in the post where they were explaining why these bans have gone out, they also said very clearly that selling boosts or being involved in boosts for gold, in-game gold, is absolutely fine. The only issue here is selling services in the game for real world currency. That is against the terms of service. I did have to laugh a little bit when I saw on, when I'm looking at the best place to look for when Blizzard have said something, and there's a lot of good community websites like Wowhead and so on. But MMO Champion is really good because it has its blue tracker, so that's always a good place to try and see if they've said anything that you've not been familiar with as a one-stop shop. I saw on the front page a response to a forum post that I had made. It was sort of a reply that I had made. On the EU forums, someone made a post again complaining about the lack of involvement on the EU forums by developers. Now, obviously we know developers don't say a lot. They're not on the forums all day, every day. They've got a job to do. It's the community managers that are there as the go-between who are posting things a lot of the time. But developers do post things as well in response. Particularly on class forums, it has to be said, but other ones as well, where people are discussing something. You do get the odd developer comment as well. But what is very noticeable is you don't get any of that on the EU forums, and it was the case for all of World of Warcraft's history that there's nothing is ever posted on the EU forums from like Blizzard HQ. And I talked in the past about, why do we even need separate European and North American forums? You can understand why you separate forums into like languages, but why in terms of the English language forums are there separate North American, European ones? And one theory might be you don't want so many people there that posts instantly drop down, but that's not neither of those forums is busy enough for that to happen on the official forums. They move at snail's pace, quite frankly. You could easily combine the two, but for whatever reason they don't do that. But then Ian Hazzacostas, I can't remember if this was when he became assistant game director or maybe it was when he became game director, sort of said, well, actually, we should be posting some stuff there. So now what happens is you do now get posts from Blizzard HQ on the European forums. However, all it ever is copies of ones from the North American forums. And again, we've seen zero developer responses on the European forums, whereas, and I mean responses, not posts that are just copied from the North American ones, but we have seen them still continuing, not, as I say, not very often, it's not happening every day or anything like that, but we are still seeing the North American one. So someone made a bit of a complaint post, and I was about this, and I was quite amused because there was a blue post in that same forum, seemingly talking about something completely different. But what it was, this blue post, was a copy of a blue post on the North American forums. And I responded on it. I said, have you just responded to a post complaining about a lack of developer responses on the European forums by copying and pasting a response from the North American forums? And I said, has someone dared you for a laugh? And to be fair, they actually did respond to that. I feel sorry for these guys, actually. But yeah, so I saw that on the front page of MMO. I thought, oh, they replied to it. That's hilarious. But anyway. But yeah, it is a bit annoying, that one. I'm not going to go into too much about this one, but it does seem that is just a PR exercise. There is still no real involvement, which is why the nature of discussions is always very different on the EE forums compared to the NA ones. Because on the NA ones, whenever you write something on NA forums, everyone sort of knows the chances of a developer actually responding to it is very slim. But there is that chance there. So people always write it on the assumption that a developer is at least reading it, which of course is ludicrous. They haven't got time to read them all. But they can write it on that assumption. Whereas in the EU, it's very different. They write it in futility, really. It's like howling at the moon, posting anything on the EU forums. Anyway, Demonic Inquisition was nerfed for some intangible reason. There are a couple of nerfs to it, one of which it gives you a little bit more time to get quills out of the way so you don't land it on everyone. That's sort of understandable because that causes trouble. But they've also increased the enrage timer from 8 minutes, which already sounded fairly generous, according to a lot of people I've talked to 12 minutes. So obviously there was a bit of a problem with people actually hitting the enrage timer on that boss. So it's been extended to 12 minutes now. So I really can't see how you can enrage on that boss now. Sharding has been suspended in some areas on RP realms. Sharding is the technology whereby you can be on the same realm as someone else, but you can be stood right next to them, but you may not see them because there's actually different sort of copies of various places. It's why sometimes you might see when you join a group with someone, they're not, you're in the same place, but you can't see them. If you join group with them, then one will move to the other shard. It's a way of making it so that in some areas you don't have too many players, but equally in other areas you're not going to have too few players because it can sort of manage the number of players that are in copies of that thing. But apparently it causes merry hell on RP realms where community events are sometimes organised where you want a lot of people in one place. So they have sort of suspended sharding in some areas on RP realms. It will still continue in other areas, including, I think, the Dalaran of the Broken Isles as well. But particularly, I think the Argent Tournament or something like that, on RP realms, they organise an annual event there, I'm told. So they sort of suspended it there, as well as quite a lot of other areas. The Doomsayers are now back. They're in Dalaran this time, as opposed to Orgrimmar and Stormwind, giving out pamphlets. They're quite good. You should have a read of those ones. And Argus is now visible in the sky, even for characters that haven't killed Kil'jaeden. So this is the final step in preparation for the release of 7.3. However, I do note that 7.3 is not on the background downloader. So my idea that it would be released next week is obviously shot in flames. So it will be at least another week before that comes out. And it could potentially even be another 2 weeks, in which case that would place it on the 77-day pattern that has been emerging in Legion. And that will continue if that is the case. So that's it in terms of the basic news for this week. In terms of sort of streaming news and channel news, which I sort of go on to. So I'm still continuing, at least for the next couple of weeks, to be streaming something from 7 PM UK time, Sunday to Friday, basically every day apart from Saturday, but Saturday I stream from 3 PM UK time for a few hours. It can be various things. On, let's see now, Wednesday, Thursdays and Mondays, it will always, that's my raid time, so I will either be streaming the raid or I'll be streaming me be benched from the raid, as was the case on Wednesday, so it'll just be general chat and me flying around aimlessly at that point. On the other day, like Saturday afternoons, I tend to do LFR on alts, and then the other days it can be whatever. At the moment, it's mostly going to be Lord of the Rings Online because that's a new expansion just come out. I've just spent quite a lot of money on it as well, so obviously I'm getting my use out of that. And I'm going to be doing a subscriber report either this weekend or next week sometime. It sort of depends on... There's one thing I want to talk about that's not quite ready yet, but there might be enough other things that I think I should just do on now. For those who might be newish to the channel, these are ones I do now and then just to explain a bit about how the channel's been going, where I'm aiming to take it in the future, and also to elicit some feedback. So I'd quite like to do that quite soon, so I may well do that tomorrow, in which case I also want to talk a little bit about possibly a new channel that I might be doing very soon as well, although it's not related to World of Warcraft, at least directly, but there might be some common ground. So that's about it. So I will be streaming quite soon, because again, 7 PM UK time, even on Fridays now, I've been streaming something. I'm intending to stream Lord of the Rings Online, but again, it's just a general come and chat about whatever, because I will just be streaming whatever game I happen to be playing at the time, which in my current plans, unless someone wants to do a load of Mythic Pluses, is going to be Lotro. So thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.